Hey, Joe.
I don't know what happened.
I think we are live, and
Oh, yeah.
we've got all three of us here today to kick things off. So, I was just at a table with some of our attendees on AirMeet, and we've got some great people in attendance and some readers ready to read from the winter edition. So, we are going to debut our 11th. It's the 11th edition of the Watershed Journal. Is that right? Can you believe it?
Yeah.
It's just incredible. So this edition, right now we're doing our virtual toast, and the toast started out as a way to congratulate everybody, to get everybody together, to get magazines in the hands of submitters first and foremost. And unfortunately, we can't do that during COVID times right now. But the next best thing is to get everybody here virtually, and we will be able to share snippets and pages and previews of the winter edition. And then I wanted to mention that members will be getting their packets mailed out as soon as the edition comes back from the printer, which should be any day now. And so probably by early next week, we'll have those in the mail out to members, and then we'll be stocking Watershed books with copies of the brand new winter edition. And then those who ordered pre-orders. So submitters have the benefit of being able to order pre-orders at a reduced wholesale price. And so those will also go out in the mail to those who indicated that they wanted shipping. And then those who are picking up at the store will be able to do that as soon as they come in. So we'll be updating everybody as that happens. But tonight we're here to celebrate and showcase all the wonderful talent in this edition. So I want to thank Sarah for setting up. Sarah's our managing and creative editor, for setting up this virtual platform for us so we could connect. I want to thank Joe Shire for Joe's a member of our board and just one of our most valued team members for the Watershed Journal. And so she's here to help us host tonight. And of course, I'm Jess Weibel. So anything from you guys before we get started? I will prepare to show the cover. So I'm gonna mute myself.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still having trouble with screen sharing, so if you're able to get that going, then we are good to go. Well, while you're looking at that, this is Joe, and I'll just say congratulations to Jess and to Sarah. I mean, there are 11 editions of this magazine for one major reason, and that's their dedication to their roles as executive and managing editors, directors, both. And boy, every edition just gets more beautiful. And I think that's partly because of the quality of the submissions, certainly the artwork, the photography, and the written word, but putting them together into the journal is magic. And so you guys should be very proud of yourselves. 11's a nice number, and it'll just keep getting better. So congratulations, and I know we all greatly appreciate it.
Well, yeah, that's the first thing I wanted to say was thank you to our submitters. That's, we started off with that first edition just saying, okay, well, we want to be published. Let's see where we go from here. And we've grown since then. We've kept, some of the same loyal submitters, but then every edition, on average, we have about 20% that are new to us. And we're just grateful to see everyone who has the kind of passion for sharing their work with not just their community, but beyond. I think it starts with that fun extension of what we get to share at Writer's Block Party at the social group. And, getting to know the people and see the evolution of their work over time. But then even, getting to know what are these other diverse, different methods of storytelling that are happening here. And so I get excited to see new work like that. It challenges me as a writer. And as a photographer and as an artist. So, Jess, how's the screen sharing going from your side? Your mic is off.
Okay. I thought I had it. That's why I was tuning out. But okay, now maybe. Are we good?
Yeah, there's that front
Yep.
page. Yeah.
Yeah, so we have our featured writer, Juanita Smart, and I'm hoping that she is tuned in with us today to read her featured piece, wonderful poem in this edition. And then our featured artist, Catherine Jocelyn, who created original artwork and submitted. We're always glad to have artists submit. It's wonderful to see the varied work that comes in. And then featured photographer, Anola McClincy, who has some items for sale at Watershed Books, and she's got all kinds of artistic talents. So this was her first time submitting, and wonderful to see her work here.
I just wanted to say that I shared the link in the chat section for anybody who kind of wants to get a sneak preview of the full magazine. You can get access to the PDF there and read along with.
Yeah, and this photograph is such a great shot. The red of the tractor against that snowy background, and the way you've worked in the other elements, Sarah, with the red line above, and really is it's simple and yet very very spectacular in the color combinations.
Yeah, it's always hard getting color in the winter edition because we get so much snowscapes, which are beautiful. But this pop of color really is nice to see. Okay.
Yeah, well, before we get started with readings, because I'm really excited to hear people read their own work in their voice, was there anything specific about this 11th edition? I just wanted to do an overview of, we're now, this is the this is the fourth edition we've put out during the pandemic. And so there's been some evolution there. This is the first edition we've put out since opening Watershed Books. There's been a lot of change overall in our organization since the fall edition. So what are y'all's thoughts about what makes this one different? What as we were putting this together, any specific challenges or excitement that y'all had?
Well, I feel like in terms of the writing that was coming in and the storytelling, there was, initially we had people who were kind of still maybe grappling with what was happening, the changes to our lives, and but in a way of like kind of still in shock maybe, or this kind of I feel like with the winter edition, there was more like, okay, we're in this right now, we're processing it, and as we've processed it, we've arrived at kind of this place, and so everything is kind of a deeper introspection, I think, with not everything, but the pieces that grapple with, events right now as they are. There's still variety to it, but it's just really interesting to see how people are processing it a year into, the circumstances that we've all found ourselves in.
I was just struck again by the diversity of voices in the community. When you get your copy, people will see everything from a very young person's work to, well, the other end of the spectrum and everything in between. I love the variety, prose, poems, and I'm continuously encouraged at how our community is expanding, and the more it expands, the more representative the journal is, which is what this is all about. We look at each piece, each artwork, each photograph, and enjoy those, but it's the culmination of all of those over 11 editions that really represents the community. So again, I was, as the work came rolling in to take a look at and proofread and so on, I was struck so much by the variety, the combination of long-standing submitters and new submitters, and the diversity of our community.
All
Good
right.
deal.
Are we ready?
Do you want to roll through the list, or do you just want to have people raise their hands? How do you want to?
Yeah, I think that anyone who is logged in here with us on AirMeet, if you want to press the hand button, it's that hand icon at the bottom of your window here for AirMeet, then we'll know that you're ready to read. And I know there's always some reluctance for the first person to get things rolling, but we very much would appreciate someone to do that for us and get us going here.
Well, Michael Benini was the first one.
Oh, excellent. All right. Yeah. I'm going to look for his piece, and I will mute myself for a minute to do that.
I'm not seeing my picture. Are you even hearing me?
Do you have an icon at the bottom of your screen where you
here I am. Okay, can you see and hear me?
Yes, I'm going to look up your piece and get it on the screen for you while you read. So feel free to get started, and I'll get it up there.
I'll wait till you get it up.
Okay.
Tell me when you get it up.
All right. Now it's open. Nice to see it on the page. All right, stay with me. I almost got it.
While she's doing this, do you want to give us just a quick introduction about who you are as a writer and just something about yourself?
I'm Mike Benini. I'm from Brookville. I just retired from the College of Charleston. I've been a sort of an adjunct gypsy teacher for 30 years. I'm now working part-time at the History Center. So I'm back home. I moved back in September. And I've been, taught poetry. I majored in poetry. I've been writing poetry all my life. So basically that's it.
All right. Can you see your page up there?
Yes, I can, ma'am.
Wonderful. All right. So we're ready when you are, if you would read for us.
Okay. This is called Cinderella Man, and it has an epigraph. The epigraph is from the film that the poem is based on. So here's the epigraph. Welcome to Mandrake Falls, where the scenery enthralls, where no hardship e'er befalls. Welcome to Mandrake Falls. And this is from the sign in the opening scene of the film Mr. Deeds Goes to Town, and it's composed by the hero himself, Mr. Longfellow Deeds. So here's the poem. Okay. So this isn't quite Mandrake Falls, and certainly I'm no Longfellow Deeds. But it is, after all, my hometown. And I did wake up a few hours ago with the night sweats in my old bed, a creature of someone else's dream. And I'm thinking maybe tonight, this time in my next dream, I'll be Gary Cooper, like in this Capra film I'm watching. I just inherited 20 million from an uncle I never met. And when the lawyers from New York arrived in my small town home, ready to sweep me away, I took the news with a splendid insouciance, playing my tuba because it helped me focus on the greeting card verses I had made my living on at $25 a pop, mostly about the girl of my dreams that used to spin in my head, that helped me forget that somewhere outside there's depression going on. It was all theater, of course, when I arrived in New York, sliding down my long banister to throw out the world-famous soprano, to break up the party, to get drunk and dance naked in the streets, feeding donuts to horses, tickling the feet of statues. To hell with them if they can't take a joke. Those lines to my new girlfriend, the undercover journalist who can't quite find my story, whom I left on a park bench to chase fire trucks, mere symbolism. It wasn't schmaltz that the great poet felt when I decked him at the cafe, when he mocked me in my verse. I chose perfection of the life, the fool. It was nothing personal. Now, the lawyers want me nuts. The women call me pixelated. I would be through with all of this, have given my fortune to the farmers, better them than my girlfriend, the undercover journalist who dubbed me the Cinderella Man in the press and regrets it all. Now she sees only good in me, wants me to speak my case, thinks everything's going to be swell. That's it.
Wonderful. Always great to hear poets read their work, and you've got such a great voice for this. Thank you so much for sharing. And the version that I shared on my screen here, it was the in-draft version. So I'm going to, while Joe and Sarah, Sarah's there, while you guys talk a little bit about Mike's piece, I'm going to find the more updated version so that he can see that too. So I'll be right back.
Did I send the wrong version? Okay. Well.
No. It wasn't you. It was the version that I put up here didn't have the full poem on it.
Oh.
That's my bad.
We're in just this technological flux that, we're all learning as we're going. So
Me too. Yeah. I'm amazed that I was able to get on this.
You're doing great. Okay. Well, I mean, the whole thing of this is that you can't replace in person. We're all looking forward to when we can be in the same space together and see the full body language and the whole thing. But anyway, it's just the joy of getting to hear it from your own voice. Anyway, that's what's fun. So the first question I have is, what was the process of this? Was this a one-piece sit-down, got it all out? How did this come about?
It's an old poem, actually, about 20 years ago. And it was after my divorce. And I was actually staying with my mother in my own hometown bed. And that film really did come on. And and I wrote it, and it was part of a book that I had written at the time. But then a year later, the Adam Sandler remake came out, and then there's the film Cinderella Man, which is about a boxer. And I thought, oh God, it's lost all its cachet, and I just forgot all about it, But I was looking through the old files, and I came across it again, and I said, well, maybe now's the time for this, But yeah, it was written about 20 years ago.
Is the whole poem on screen? Can everybody see it?
Yeah, it looks good.
Great.
Well, I really enjoyed this, Michael, and it was great storytelling, especially the way you read it, and so many surprising images like feeding donuts to horses. I think that really struck me.
But that's all part of the film. It was a matter of summarizing the film with the details that I needed to summarize.
Yeah, but you pulled out, you had a myriad of details to choose, and the ones you chose really drove the narrative forward. I really enjoyed it. Do you still write this way now? I mean, you said this is 20 years old. Is it still fairly representative of, the way you're thinking?
No, thank God. I'm no longer writing about my divorce, but yes and no. Yes and no. As far as I know, this is the only poem that ever was based on a film directly. No, that's not typical. No. I don't know if I answered the question right or not, but yeah.
No, sure. Well, thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for joining us on screen. I'm
Yes,
gonna.
first time
Thank you.
submitter.
Thank you for publishing.
No, we're so glad that you're a part of what we're doing here, and great to have you in our community and sending this excellent work. This is, we do get a variety of poetry, but this sort of in-depth kind of character-driven um, uh, type of poem. It's not necessarily narrative, but it's very heavily, leaves an impression of a character, and that's something that I feel like I haven't seen a whole lot of since we've started publishing. This fleshing out of a person and the experience. So I really appreciated that.
Well, thank you. I'll send you something else.
Yeah,
Please do.
Okay.
All
thanks.
right. Well, thank
you so
you. We got the next person on here who has raised their hand. I'm going to unpin you there, Jess.
Great.
And Lynn.
All right, I will dig around for Lynn's piece, and I know there were a couple draft versions, so I'm going to find the right one for her while she introduces herself a bit.
There I am.
Hi.
Hi, guys. Introduce myself a little bit. I have written in the past for the Punchy Spirit. Currently, I write for the Mirror. The girls know, for the most part, I dabble in a lot of self-help kind of articles. I actually am working on a book about depression and a lot of the mental health disorders and things that go along with it. But the piece that I picked for you guys tonight, I liked it because, first of all, love winter, love snow. I'm that person that, believes that Christmas is a 365-day year, holiday. So I'm like Michael. This is an older piece that I had done when I was in a writing course years ago. So I dug it out because I figured it fit this particular magazine, and so this is why I chose it for. Plus, I like working on my skills as far as my details and learning to tell the story or show the story, not tell the story, or you know what I'm talking about. But anyhow, that is what brought me to this piece.
Can you stand up there, Lynn?
Oh my God, guys, I love it.
Oh, good.
Nice.
Oh, I'm so glad. Yeah, this one took us a little bit. I know Sarah went through a couple different versions of getting, and I'll show the second page too in a little bit, but, getting it all formatted. And so it's always gratifying to hear that it works for the submitter as well.
Hey, Jess, do you want to mention who the photographer is? It I can't read it. Who the photographer was?
It's Jody Biabo.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying that right.
Nice.
I might be horribly mispronouncing her name, and she's such a wonderful woman, and I hope that I didn't. But she has been such a consistently wonderful submitter, always getting great varied images for the edition. So we love her work. All right, Lynn, are you ready to read?
I am. Just a side note, I'm going to hit you guys up later. I'd love to reach out to her and thank her for such a wonderful photography. Oh my, wow.
Oh, absolutely.
I think her photography is going to set my story very well. So, all right, yes, I would love to read, guys. It's all in how you see it. As we traveled up the long, winding dirt road to the quiet side of the mountain, we could see where the snowstorm had passed through earlier that day. It was mid-December, and it was customary for a snowstorm to dump a foot of snow in some parts due to the high altitude. It had left the forest and the fields covered entirely with a deep blanket of snow that glistened when the sun hit it just so. Although we would stop for a rest along the way, the wind seemed brisk, and the air to the touch of our cheeks felt crisp with the winter's first hello. The beauty of the scene below still took our breath away. Every snowflake looked special as the one which fell before it. Lying together, they quilted out a blanket on the ground. It was a peaceful feeling, knowing that this covering was meant to protect and quiet all the activity beneath it. As we neared the reason for our journey, a huge wooden house came into view. With all of its external magic and charm, we couldn't help but feel the invitation of its internal warmth and fascination. It was a beautiful house trimmed with red and green shutters. It looked so much like a cottage, except for its size. It was huge, and all the eaves were covered with inches of snow. The windows had festive green wreaths with big red bows on them, The house itself could use a few repairs, but yet it was still charming and very welcoming. The giant porch begged for us to come and sit for a spell. When we peered through the window, we could see the logs in the fireplace spark and hear them crackle from the heat. It seemed to beckon us to come closer. Before we realized it, our senses quickly picked up the scent of apples and cinnamon mixed with pine, decorating the flower boxes around us. With further glimpsing into the house, we caught a flash of movement and heard a high-pitched giggle of someone inside the house. But when we looked in the direction of the sounds we heard, something else would magically pull our vision towards it. If we listened closely every now and then, we could hear a conductor shouting, "All aboard!" off in the distance. Well, at least we thought we did. Strangely, though, the trains were shut down due to the storm. When we looked back into the house and further into an adjoining room, we saw a well-stocked kitchen of mouth-watering treats and heavenly-tasting delights of all kinds. You could see the table and the countertops flowing with chocolate cookies, sugar cookies shaped like snowmen. There was a plate full of fudge and another of peanut brittle. It looked as if whoever owned this house was baking for a whole village. We followed our senses around to the back of the house and closer to the room where we could practically taste the warm cookies as they piled up on the counter. The heat from the oven would fog up the glass on the window pane as the new cookies would be brought out of the oven, and the moisture on the glass and the temperature dropping again outside, frost patterns started to form and block our view. Stepping away from the house, we could draw a picture in our minds that would allow a vision of anyone's idea of contentment to evolve and bring a smile to their face. As we began walking towards the shed, we could smell the sweetness of the straw tossed recklessly about the ground. We could also hear the animals pawing patiently inside. Feeling as if we were in an old movie, we headed down the lane for a sled ride with the old mare pulling us on the old wooden sleigh. As we made fresh tracks in the snow, it led us to believe that the hustle and bustle of the day had been at a bare minimum. As we went along our journey, the smell of smoke from a nearby house picked up the smell of hickory and maple in the air. As evening drew near, we found a clearing in the forest and started back. Every now and then, we would see bunnies and squirrels scampering about as if they were trying to get home and tucked in safe for the night. If we looked close enough, we would see the horse's breath and listen to her give us a neigh, as if to say the shed was calling her back again into its warmth. When we did get back to the clearing, the shed, and put things away, the darkness of the night allowed the lights from the house to give off a soft glow on the snow around it. It almost lit our path back to the house. Hoping to catch a permanent vision of our surroundings, we took one last look at the house and at the shed before departing on our long journey home. All this greeted us with such a welcome, as if only to last for a moment, and left an imprint on our minds forever. As adults, we should have doubted the very ground we stood upon, and yet we could not do that. There had been a certain amount of magic to what we saw, and left us with so many questions. Did we actually take a step from reality into the spirit of Christmas? And if so, did this world only live within our hearts? Is it there through the year only to be drawn forth now? Or do our emotions melt away with the snow of the coming of spring, only to go back stronger in the new year? Can we only see this through the eyes of a child within ourselves? Because only as a child are we able to have the capacity to have the faith and believe in Santa and a small village at the top of the world.
Thank you so much for the reading. It's such a heartwarming story. One of the wonderful things about wintertime is the combination of, being out in the cold and that it's refreshing, but it can be very, draining. And so to see the warmth of the cottage and the glow and comfort of that is just such a nice transition, and I think very relatable experience for the season.
That's what I was hoping would come across for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was a piece that you had written a while ago, you said. Did you, upon reading, are you prone to revising and always kind of correcting, or once you write a piece, you're pretty happy with where it stands?
Most of the time, I want to revise everything. I'm never satisfied, but with that, except for tweaking, the verbiage and a few things like that, I left it pretty much the way it was. From the beginning, it said exactly what I wanted it to say.
Yeah, other thoughts? I'll let Joe and Sarah chime in if they have thoughts about it too.
Do you feel like this is representative of your work? Again, as a same question from Michael, pulling from an older piece, Revisiting it, do you feel a little alien from it, or do you feel like this is consistent with the writing that
The writing I'm doing now, not well, not really, because more of my writing now is fact based, or to me that was a total nonfiction piece, and I love the fact that I could get the description the way I wanted it with it. But compared to what I write now, probably not. My stuff now is more, again, to help, to more of a self-help kind of thing. I want to, try to share with people experiences that they can relate to, and build on that kind of writing now more so than what I wrote there. That was a fun piece.
Yeah, I loved the feeling of nostalgia that it evoked. And I remember when I first read it and I was proofreading, that's one of the things that I do to help. I wasn't sure if it was fiction or fantasy or a memory you had as a child that you weren't sure happened or not. And I loved that whole notion of mystery that it created, which is so appropriate for the holidays anyway, because they're infused with mystery, whether you look at the religious side of them or the magical side of them. And, in the representation of, Santa or that little cottage with the sugar cookies. I love that picture too, by the way, Sarah, of Santa, and I think that's Octavia Knight took that one, and her new puppy. It's just really adorable. So the writing is very poised and very smooth, and it just sort of carries the reader away, and the whole piece created that whole sense of mystery and magic that make the holidays special.
Thanks, Joe. And you hit on the word nostalgia, because that was what I was going for. I was blessed too with that piece. I grew up in a house where Christmas was magical, whether it was, like you said, the secular or the religious aspect of it. And that was what Christmas was like every year for us. It was magical, and it was the smells. And that, actually writing that piece, evoked a lot of the things that I remember as a child growing up: the smell of the Christmas tree, of the cookies my mom baked, and things like that. So good. I'm glad it reached out to somebody the way I wanted it to.
Yeah, thank you so much. Again, always great to hear from you and to hear you read your story in your voice. So it was a real treat. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thank
ladies.
you.
All right. Do we have anyone on deck?
We do. We have a couple on deck.
Great.
Wayne, you are coming up next.
Wayne?
Wayne Slonger.
All right. Let me find Wayne's piece.
Okay. Wayne, how are you?
I'm doing well, and you, Sarah?
And we're not getting
Pardon me?
We're not getting your camera in yet. If you want to click that red camera button, you'll be able to.
I thought it had it on.
Yep, there you go. Sometimes people like to remain anonymous. So go ahead.
I'm doing you a favor and having it off. But
all right.
Oh,
here's your page.
Mercy.
So this is artwork from Abraham Darlington, who was a featured artist a couple editions back. I think in the last spring edition that we did. No, yes, I think it was the last spring edition. And so Sarah paired that with your poem, and I just think it really complements kind of the disorientation. But I won't speak too much. I'll let you read.
Okay. This poem is entitled COVID, a Data Analysis. Our illusion of separateness crumbles under the crush of numbers. New cases, hospitalizations, deaths. Measures of our unwillingness to separate. The necessity of intimacy. Unmasked.
I just love how you're able to say so much in so few words. And that's the challenge always, is to remove anything unnecessary, cut the fat. But you do more than that. I feel like you're able to take someone through, I very emotionally react to your work. But I feel like you take someone to a place directly and then turn it a little bit there at the end, to make it so personal that I can't help but relating it to very, very specific things in my life that you can't possibly know about. So I think that's a tribute to not just trimming the fat, but a heart that's coming through of what is wanted to say. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
Sorry, I don't know if you guys heard the very loud bluegrass music coming from upstairs, but that would be Brian. So I'm turn that down. I hope that didn't impair your reading at all, Wayne.
I didn't even hear it.
I didn't know there was bluegrass. I would have stopped.
But thank you. So it's always great to hear you read, and there's something, like Sarah said, so emotionally resonant. And so when we're looking in times like these, when we're looking for people to help us process what's going on, it doesn't always have to be someone offering a resolution or someone offering like a tidy explanation for what to do, but just somebody to kind of guide us through, or give us language for what we're feeling and experiencing. And your poem certainly did that for me.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was very sparse but very full of meaning. It's one of those poems that even though you could count the words quickly, it needs to be read several times, I think, at least I needed to read it several times for the full import of what you were saying to really connect with me. And I love this pairing of the artwork because in some ways the strong linear orientation of the artwork looked like a spreadsheet to me almost, or like scientific data or some type of scientific depiction of something in a petri dish, and it really complemented the poem so well. But I think what you're saying is that even though we think we're separate and we're isolated, these new cases, these hospitalizations, these deaths still keep occurring. And so we're really not as isolated as we think we are. And it was really terrific food for thought.
Yes, this is a piece called On, from Abraham Darlington. And he works with mixed media. And so I think it was those pieces that really drew me to this pairing, was that, and at some point now, I'd love to see the piece of art in person. But just from the image, it's almost like you could peel it apart and it would take the pieces away. And that was what really connected it to me, to yours.
Good job.
Thanks, Wayne.
Thank you. Let's see who's up next here. Here we go. Thank you, Wayne. And all right, Rachel, Octavia Knight is coming to the screen. There she is. And Jess is going to pop off and find your page. So do you want to take a moment, Octavia? We just had a great event with you going over your new publication, Faceless Expressions. And that was just a lot of fun, for one thing. But do you want to talk a little bit about this, how you select submissions? You're a constant submitter, which I love. Give us a little introduction before we do.
I don't know. I feel like my selections are completely random most of the time. It depends on the mood that I'm in, and that kind of is the sole basis of what I feel like sharing.
When you think about you as a writer, we still got a little more time while she's getting that up. Tell us about your book.
Well, all right, my book, Faceless Expressions, that was mostly like dark humor, short stories, and like gothic poems. Right now, I'm working on some horror short stories, and then so I'm working on some other poetry. Well, kind of like nature observations and stuff like that. I'm just like all over the place right now.
I've got your picture up. Is it
Yeah.
up?
What's up? Yep.
All right.
That looks like another shot from Jody. Am I right? Another house?
That's right.
Yeah. Lovely.
Beautiful.
Awesome
Beautiful
picture. Cool. All right, I'm going to read this poem. What to behold. Unfiltered thoughts roaming wild in my mind. I stare at the walls, unable to formulate coherency, willing my eyes to see what is not there, pleading with my sanity to unveil the truth, digging deep within my subconscious for some secret knowledge, for the power to see, to know, to be. The path is hidden from me, to reveal what is hidden, to open the locked door and unleash the power. What words must I write to free myself from myself? To walk beyond the darkness of my mind, toward the light ahead. Is it real? I will myself to know it when I see it, to unburden my mind, to let the thoughts drop onto the page. Let the magic take hold. Let fly the wonders. Whether great or small, I must take the leap. And if I should fall, I will fall with grace, fall into the sacred kingdom.
Thank you so much for reading. I just love the way this whole page turned out. But your poetry is always really layered and steeped in kind of this very heavy and dramatic, and there's always such a strong mood and tone to it. And this piece certainly, there's the questioning, there's a sense of disorientation, and sacred kingdom, these references to very sort of ancient ideas and secret knowledge. I mean, it's very enticing.
Thank you.
That's what I loved about this image, as I felt like what you were writing about was almost a Kierkegaardian leap of faith. And the way that he writes about it is that I always imagine it at a cliff edge, and there's just fog everywhere clouding your vision. And the leap of faith is just hoping that you land on something. And so I see this picture, and I hear you in this house, in your mind, expanding out into the ether or the unknown, and the courage of being able to take a leap into that without knowing where you're going to land or what's going to be your if there is a safety net at all. And so that's just from a design perspective, that's what brought me to that picture.
Yeah, it was a nice pairing, Sarah. What I often see in your work, Octavia, and I noticed it in your reading too, is a lot of time your conflicts are within yourself, between two parts of yourself. And this poem is a perfect example of that. What words must I write to free myself from myself? You often talk about the darker side of the mind. You're not afraid to explore those things. And I think that's very courageous.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And it was wonderful to have you for our author series last Sunday. So we're still...
yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And to hear you read more long-form work or prose work that you write. So yeah, it's always exciting to see what you come up with next.
Yeah.
More.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Who's on deck?
Who's on deck? Debbie Allen.
Oh boy. Okay.
Please, everyone, welcome Debbie Allen to the stage.
Yay.
Just has to emotionally prepare herself.
I know. I love
All
Debbie
right.
Allen. Love you, Debbie Allen. All right, I'm going to hop off so I can find your page.
Debbie, hey, can you give us an introduction, a little bit about yourself?
Hi. Well, I'm a professional editor and writer, which I've been for a long, long, long time. And several years ago, I just suddenly got interested in poetry, basically, and reading it and learning more about it, and then trying my hand at writing it. And I've done other types of creative writing, but none of it really grabbed a hold of me like poetry has. And so when I have time, I try to work on it.
Do you have a writing habit, or is it, I get this special treat?
Yes, it's the special treat. Yeah. Although my circumstances are changing a little bit, I'm hoping to be able to have more time for writing the way I want to write instead of the way I'm paid to write.
So what is that? Are we getting a taste of that? What is the way you want to write?
Oh, just poetry instead of, the editing and writing that I do professionally. That's a great picture.
Oh, good. Okay, so we've got your page up on screen, and yes, I love this. Is Anthony Mangino is the photographer here, and man, he has been a faithful submitter, I think, since the very beginning. And what beautiful variety he has. A lot of it are you see landscapes and things that he's done like that, and this really close up, detailed, beautiful shot here is just, I think, works perfectly. So I'll let you go ahead, and very excited to hear you read this one.
Thanks. Well, before I read it, I want to say I've submitted a few times, as you know, and every time it is so exciting to me to find out what the picture is going to be, the poems. That's just such a neat part of the journal. So I just wanted to say I really appreciate that. Okay, this is called Waiting. Shop alone, the market sign shrieked. He went in, I dilly-dallied. Soon my idle mind snapped to, eyes hidden, focused, interest rallied. Exiting the chipped white truck, they set about their usual ballad. Overreaching, weathered wooden rails atop the bed, they wrangled crates of berries, red and seeded, grown with sun and soil, tools age-old, water, wisdom, work divided, use of nothing near newfangled. Most intriguing was the man, whose spotted skin hid missing masses, cancers gone but not forgotten, hands belied a lived augustness, posture sloped from left to right, yet stone-cold stare spoke pure steadfastness. Ogling then through shaded lenses, I admit I took it all in. Suddenly he stood not moving, his expression to her calling. Mangled hands with fingers missing, can't address a mask that's fallen. Motionless emotionlessness. Reaching, she began to even, made adjustments, nose now covered. Subtler still, my silent grieving. Raging, screaming not out loud, is this how life will finally leave him? Months have passed, yet time stands still, with morning breaking ever later, dormant tendrils moan, surviving, chances now so much the greater. He waits, she waits, breathless, fevered, all await the promised Savior.
Wow. I mean, this piece is just it knocked me out for sure. Motionless, emotionlessness. I just sometimes you hear phrases that just are so perfect, and you're like, why haven't I heard that before? This is I can't believe this is the first time that I'm hearing these words together, and it's just, I mean, what you capture here, I know resonates with me very much right now, and the experiences that I'm having as an observer of what's happening around, and I'm just really grateful to have had this as part of the way to process, how I'm taking it all in.
Thank you.
Yeah, tell me about the rhyming scheme, Debbie. What I liked about it is it's subtle, it's very there, but you didn't force. It didn't seem like anything was forced. I'd be curious to hear how you.
Yeah, well, I used trochaic tetrameter for the meter scheme. And then for the rhyme, I did rhyme or slant rhyme on every other line. And, like there was a point where I could have used angled. It would have been a perfect rhyme, but instead I used age old because it really broke the rhyme scheme in a sense, but it still stayed with it in a way too. And I love meter and rhyme so much, and I like seeing what I can do with it. And I've said this before. What's really cool about it is you're not completely in control of the poem you're writing, because if you're staying within a meter and rhyme, then you have to let the language contribute. And I love that. So I wrote what I wanted to say one day. I'd already taken notes about this months ago, and then I wrote what I wanted to say one day, and then I put the meter and rhyme to it the next day, and so that's how it came out.
Yeah, great.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead,
No,
Joe.
that's okay, Sarah. No, I just appreciated the form and meter without it being forced, and the way you played with the line break, and sometimes with enjambment and sometimes not, but all feeling still very natural within the context of the meaning of the poem. Nice job.
Thank you.
Did you find the translation from what you wanted to say to the form that it took? There's always this discussion about, regardless of where you see your inspiration coming from, whether you are directly connecting and transcribing inspiration, or whether you are forcing meaning into something, or whether you are letting the meaning convey itself. There's all these theories about that. So taking what you wanted to say and then putting it into this form, did it change the poem? Did it change the meaning? Did it enhance, what did that do for you?
Yeah, I've had that happen. The very first poem I submitted to Watershed Journal, when I applied meter and rhyme to it, it changed the meaning of the poem. This time it did not do that, but it did change the details to some extent.
Wonderful, and I'm so glad to hear that you like how it turned out on the page too, because that's always a big part of the excitement for us too. I know Sarah put so much into the attention to detail and the design element, and we really think about how to complement the tone of each piece, and not to do the obvious, but to do something that would really just enhance and bring out what's there. So
well, that piece of moisture hanging off the bottom berry is perfect.
Yeah, I love that page.
And Anthony is with us here today. Yeah, he's on here with us. And so if you're interested at some point, Anthony, I'd love, raise your hand. I'd love to hear you talk about the submissions that you send, and how you think about, do you think about, this is my favorite, anyway, I've got questions. But he sends us such a wide variety, and I love that from all of our photographers. We get, and artists. Oh yeah, definitely our artists. We get such a wide variety of things, and I love the classic, it's seasonal, and there's some beautiful images from this region. But I love coming, like my favorite pages are coming to ones that I say, there's not something obvious about this. There's something that I need the reader to make a jump with me to this image. And I feel like that allows the reader to say, why does this connect? What parts of the poem does this pull out? What parts of the picture that I didn't think about are being pulled out there? And I say that, but then I also love it when we get a piece, a written piece and an image piece that are like, they talked about it beforehand. It's like, I would never have found the perfect picture for that. We just happened to get the perfect picture right in. So anyway, that's my thesis. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
I wanted to mention that if you are on AirMeet, there's a comments, like a chat section happening on the right-hand margin of your screen there. And there's some wonderful comments, great insight and encouragement. And so if you're on there, please check those out and see how people are responding here to your work. And then you'll be able to check Facebook if you're on Facebook to see all the comments piling up there. And even we're streaming on YouTube. So if there's any YouTubers out there chiming in, you'll get to see that too.
That's neat.
Thank you so much, Debbie. This was
Thank
wonderful.
you, Debbie.
Thank you.
All right, we have up next Kirk Wise.
Kirk, all
Come
right.
on board.
Kirk's piece.
So we are going from someone who believes in rhyme and meter to, oh, Kirk, where'd you go? Let me see if I can force you on here.
Wait until you guys see the
Yeah.
image of Kirk's poem. It is just so beautiful.
There he is.
Okay, hold on here. Camera's up.
Hey, lights
In my
up.
secret poetry cave, you can tell how I love symmetry. I arrange things so they're symmetrical. And the only way to dress up mid-1800s doors is to add LED lightings to them. And all of the people in my family like bright colors, and I like rhyme. I don't care whether it's forced, personally, because I take that as a challenge. And I believe I'm one of those few people that can do forced rhyme poetry that actually kicks ass. I mean, that's my opinion. But this is something I wrote ekphrastically to this very beautiful image that Jody Bebout sent. And boy, I hope she's a featured photographer someday, because so many of these pictures are so inspirational. This little kitten, and what more, I mean, of all the things in the world, little children accepted, of course, are the same. A little innocent, furry, small, scared kitten. What kind of emotions can that evoke by the look on its face and what it's thinking? And this little kitten looking across these waters, an innocent little kitten that's so helpless in the world. And I saw this picture, so I wrote one of my simplistic, somewhat simplistic poems, but I hope that kind of conveys something that touches all of us in a sense. And I do have it actually up on my iPad, so I don't need to try to strain and read the thing, but it's very good. Jess, you're doing a great job. And I'm going to, as all my poems, over 1,500 now, I'm going to read this poem. And it's called The Simple Things. It's the everyday of our lives. Those little things that bring us joy, or the times we feel perplexed, those moments we felt destroyed. With our walks on by the waters, never-ending streams that carry us along, there's so many reflections to remember as we struggled to sing a better song. To find contentment against the eddies, trying for stability within those waves, skirting the very edges of eternity with the optimism that so often saves. By each new experience and challenge, regardless of the outcome it brings, to simply trying until we're almost crying, holding on to the hopes of those simple things. And I know that's not in perfect meter, but that's the way I write.
Thank you so much. I mean, this really, like you said, the image is just such a perfect complement to it. But I really like the idea of there's so many reflections to remember. I feel like there are a lot of times where there's a moment when I'm in the moment and I am making a conscious effort, like I want to remember this. And it does feel like a reflection in that it's just this kind of like very temporary thing that you can really lose sight of and lose track of if you're not really being mindful and deliberate about remembering. So that was one of the lines that I really appreciated.
I think that's very good too. And you know, it's just that little cat, just that look on its face.
Yeah.
A little cat against a huge river, scared, not knowing what it was doing. Kind of like my cat here. You know, not my cat isn't quite as pretty, but just just like completely helpless against the world. And you know, that's really if you think about it, regardless of what our state in life is or our stature in life is, we're all like that. We're prisoners of this world. And it was just a beautiful picture, so I had to write something.
Hmm.
I just love Kirk. Sorry, I didn't have to cough until I started talking.
I'll put my mask on.
Yeah, no, yeah, watch out. No, I just remember the very first Writers Block Party meetings when I first started going. The very first thing that hit me was it's not just your words; it's your presence that comes through here. And I just your poems may be a challenge to some communities because of what you've chosen, how to put them together, and how to put them out there. But there are things that build community in my thought because of how active you are. Hey, Kitty. In the community with open, back when we had open mics, back when we had all these chances for performing, you were there. And so that's what speaks to me is not just that you had a moment and you put this together. You take that moment and you put it out there. And I think a lot of us, I'll speak for myself, hesitate rather than to try to grab as many people as I can. And I think that in that way, you're a great example of being a poet, having a writing habit, discipline. You may not like that word, having a writing habit that's pretty serious. But then also having a very excellent self-marketing habit of making poetry live and making it real. And so anyway, in that way, I'm so grateful for tonight to get to hear you read.
Well, I appreciate that. And I guess I don't know, I don't want to use the mantle of poet. I guess the one thing I do love about poems or poetry, although I really don't call myself a poet, I guess in some ways, is such a condensed way of telling a story. You could put a whole novel in 16 lines if you do it right. And it's a condensed way of expressing the deepest and most heartfelt emotions. And that's one of the things I like about it. And, I guess I've never been scared to go to an open mic or say whatever in front of anyone because I realize the very simple fact is you don't have to worry what other people think of you because all of us primarily think about ourselves in our own lives. And that's just the way people are. That's the way all of us are. So I think just being able to step forward and express yourself, I think is something that's good for all of us. It's something good to do. So regardless whether I embarrass myself or what anyone thinks, hey, I just bought a purple car this afternoon. I don't care what anyone thinks, obviously. I think that's good for all of us, regardless of how we write or what type of poet we are or what we are. I think it's a wonderful thing. And that's one of the reasons why I support all of you doing a wonderful job at this Watershed Journal, seemingly something that's arcane, you know what I mean? A little literary magazine in the middle of the backwoods of Pennsylvania. But I think it's a wonderful thing. And I think the only thing that can come of this is 110% good. That's all.
Yeah, thank you so much for this reading. It's always good to hear from you and to hear, what goes into all these poems that I mean, you've been writing poetry for a while and not just casually. I mean, you've been writing quite a volume of work, and so I really admire that dedication and craft and practice and just I can't think of anything that I've stuck to as much as you've stuck to, writing poetry and really taking it to the point where you see something and the impulse is to write about it. I still think I'm trying to get there.
Well, it's because it's fun. It's like literally with me, when I first, and I do want to write about this in the book someday. When I first started this, I just told people, I'm going to write a poem a week. And I regretted it that very week. It's like, what will I write about? And I tormented and toiled trying to force myself to write some kind of trash so I could have something to write next week. And it was just like that movie Conan the Barbarian, if you remember, when he was a little kid and he was pushing that gigantic wheel around and he grew stronger and stronger. It's the same sort of thing. It was so hard at first, but once that wheel started moving, it just moved faster and faster and faster. And now I'm to the point where it moves so fast I can't even keep up with it. It's like people like little, and I like to equate it like I like to have fun with all of this. It's like little children coming to my door as if I'm a little children and saying, "Let's go out and play. Let's go write something. Let's do something." And I can have a frowny face and sit in my house and decide not to, but you know what? Anymore, if I hear that knock on the door, I just start writing something and I participate.
Hmm.
And it makes it fun. And if it wasn't fun, I would not be doing this.
Yeah,
So it's just fun.
that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again so much. It was
Yeah,
good to
thank
see you. Good to see the little kitty cat.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Play.
Bye.
She's called Play.
All right, so we still have other people on here who have not read or spoken. So if you want to raise your hand, then we can get you on here. But in the meantime, Joe, Patricia Thrushart is also in the magazine. So I was wondering if you'd be willing to read your piece.
Yes.
Sure. If you want. Yeah, if no one else is in the queue.
Yeah, well, we're waiting. We got an open queue here, so anybody else who wants to join on, just hit that raise hand button. But while Jess is getting your page up, Joe, Patricia Thrushart, you also just put out a book and are expecting a very different book in the fall. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. I did just publish, thanks to Gerard Tournesol and his help, a small book of poems called Sanctity, and it's available on the bookshop for .org for Watershed Books, and I hope to have some hard copies in the store soon. And it's a book of nature poetry, and I wrote it as a way of our healing together. We all know the power of nature to heal, and we all have a lot to heal from. And so I thought I would bring that healing spirit to a book of poetry, set in the Pennsylvania wilds, in the woods of the Pennsylvania wilds. But this fall, I am expecting a historical nonfiction book to be published by Adelaide Books of New York. And actually, there's an excerpt of the book in this version of the journal. And it's one of the fictional vignettes that I wrote to help bring the characters alive. So the book spans a long period of American history from 1609 to 1962, and at the core of the story is Marion Alsobrook Stallman, who was married to local posthumous celebrity Douglas Stallman. So that's the connection locally. And I'm excited for that book to come out. It's been a long time in the making, 3 years of research, lots of beta reading, and Jess helped me with that. She was one of my beta readers and had a tremendous amount of input and influence, and so did Deborah Burkhart and Deborah Sarbin. They all helped me with feedback there. And Marion's story is a tragic one, and one that deserves to be told, and she deserves to be put in the context of this family that she was a member of that spans our history. So that's a little bit about the book, Sarah.
Well, good deal. Well, I just got your picture up there, and this is a piece of artwork by Abraham Darlington.
Yeah.
So dive on in.
Sure. Well, I can't read that, so I have to look at my phone. This was another ekphrastic exercise. So we've seen a couple of those tonight. And this one actually was written based on something in the bookstore. And this was a prompt that the Writers' Block Party had put out. And if there is anyone on the line on Facebook, on YouTube, or here on Airmeet that isn't part of Writer's Block Party, I strongly recommend you join, because this is the kind of thing that gets you writing. So we had a prompt where we were to pick an object in the store and have it be an ekphrastic prompt. So I picked a postcard, and I think it's still there.
Yes.
Yep, it's called The Postcard. Who gives a damn these days about Vivian Leigh, who played a sodden Ophelia a smoldering Lady Macbeth, blood-red lips and blood-stained hands, ringing, ringing, but still scarlet. Scarlet, her corset pulled tight by a woman enslaved, ensnaring her waist in a heartless whalebone cage, bones blanched. Blanche, tragic and damaged, skin as white as a crypt in New Orleans, as white as polar ice. Bipolar flare-ups and icy downs like the streetcar tracks of Frisco, north of Hollywood, where she thought they didn't take her seriously. There's her picture at the bookstore, a postcard discarded, left in a donated book, shoulder bare and beautiful, before tuberculosis robbed her of the breath not even a kiss from her flickering screen lovers could restore.
Wow, thank you. One word came to mind reading this and seeing it again now, which is just masterful. I feel like the transitions from the characters that the actors played, from Ophelia to Scarlett to Blanche and into her personal life, polarized to bipolar. It's just such a masterful way you know, of acknowledging, exploring, and looking for and using those different meanings and nuances to the words in order to show the progression of her life on stage and off. It's just, I think, so well done. And the artwork here by Abraham Darlington.
Well, thanks, Jess. You know, Debbie said something earlier about poems writing themselves, and all those connections happened. Because I read a little bit about her. We found her picture in a book, and actually I think it was Juanita's book.
Yeah.
And she's our feature writer. So there's all this karma happening. And I remember contacting Juanita and saying, do you want this back? And when she didn't, we framed it and put it in the store. And so I read a little bit about her life because I had forgotten a fair amount of it. And all those connections started to happen, and the poem somewhat linked all that up as I was writing it. So,
what I find interesting here is that you change the format of the poem, right? There's a section in the middle where it's almost like you dive into prose poetry there, and then back to the poem. And I don't feel like it breaks up the experience at all. And of course, as a designer, I loved it for how it looked on the page and how it balances everything out. But I just wonder, is this the nonfiction creeping in? Is this the change of focus with the writing creeping in, or is this something that was dictated by the piece?
I think the latter. What I wanted to do there is create this sense of momentum where words were almost spilling over themselves in that section. So, the early part of the poem, "Who gives a damn?" which of course is a, frankly, I don't give a damn kind of throwback there. But at the beginning of the poem, I purposely kept the lines short, for that punch. But then when I got to that biographical section where I was using Blanche and Scarlet to drive you along, I wanted it to seem like it was tumbling over itself. And so I left the lines really long.
Yeah, I love that it's kind of from restraint to unrestraint, and then back again. It's kind of almost, tucking itself back in at the end. And I thought that was a great choice.
Good.
What I loved about that picture was that it was kind of, it reminded me of the bouquet at the end of the performance. You have it was musical, even though the focus on her as an actor, but it was just kind of like, not only do you have these fragile flowers that are bright red for just this moment, but they've already been cut, and by the time that the actor would, or the singer, whoever would come back and gather up their their bouquets, they would already be wilted, and the moment was, it's just a representative of the moment once it's already beginning to be gone. And so that's what drew me there. Thank you so much for sharing that.
I loved the pairing, Sarah. I mean, the easy thing to do would have been to take the postcard, right, and put her picture there. But what I loved about the pairing is, to your point, the work, the artwork is about, excess roses and music. It's gilded, it fit perfectly that glamour, that notion of glamour, the kind of glamorous life you imagine she lived. And then, of course, there was the tragedy of her life as well, that, it was a great pair.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to mention the comment from Debbie Allen. You don't need to see the postcard to understand the poem, and I think that's right on. I mean, it's so there was a submitter early on who wrote a story about fly fishing, and it was this nice, very literary, very metaphorical, figurative story. But I remember when he submitted, he also said, this is exactly the type of story that would be ruined by having a picture of a fly fisherman on a stream there, that it would just be too on the nose. It would be, there would be no challenge to the reader. You gotta believe in your reader that they can put these things together and understand it, and not kind of pander to, just laying it all out there for them and saying, well, we didn't think you'd get it, so here, do you get it now? So
that's a really good point. Sarah, you really push us that way. I can share with everyone when we're sort of in the background looking at different layouts, I can end up being a little pedantic, and she'll be like, no, think about it this way. You do a really good job with that, Sarah. You really push us.
Well, yeah, like I said before, those are my favorite. The pages that we go through 8 iterations, and there's just there's this part that we love, that we're fighting for. And I think that the fact that we get to interact with these pieces for so long during the editing and the layout process, we really live with these pieces for a long time. And you go from the first read to the editorial read, which is very different, to the looking at on the layout read, which then changes it all together. And I think, when we first started incorporating photography and artwork seriously into the magazine, it wasn't just about, well, let's make it pretty. Let's make it so that there's more than text on there. I feel like the artwork and photography are just as active in the storytelling as the words themselves. And, I do love it when there's an image match that just brings it home and that brings it all together. But I really like it when there's something that I want the reader to be like, not confused, not pulled away from the piece. But for instance, in yours, it's not about specifically her. It's about, what are we giving out as performers? What life are we living in the meantime? Where is the difference there? So that's what I got there. So we have a couple more people who haven't read. This is your last chance to raise your hand and comment on the magazine, or share something about why you submitted.
Or I will take requests if there are any pages that you would like to see. If you know of a submitter who might not be represented here today but would like to see something.
Well, we have our first non-writer coming on, Anthony Mangino. He may also be a writer.
Wonderful.
We know him from his image submission. So on he comes.
Hey there.
Anthony, hello.
Welcome. Good to see you. And I know you live kind of a distance away from our home base here in Brookville, so I hope that this is a good way for you to be able to plug into what we're doing.
Sure is.
Great. Yeah. So we were praising your work, especially the piece, the picture paired with Debbie Allen's poem, and how much. So I hope you heard all the good praise about that.
I did.
How are you moving towards, are there different subjects that you're looking at, different points of view that you're experimenting with? Where are you right now with your photography?
Well, I guess it is a evolving process. I enjoy kind of tinkering here and there with the same same kind of thing, the landscapes and the outdoor kind of thing. But there's always different things to try.
Yeah, I love the close up is just gorgeous, and the way that you were able to bring out, the texture and the detail of the water droplets and everything. Was that, did you notice that, like when you were just kind of passing by that, oh, this is, this water droplet's just on the cusp of falling, and I better snap a photo while I can.
Well, that was sort of a spur of the moment thing. I was walking through the yard and looking at the holly bush, and the snow was coming down pretty good that day, but it was like that wet snow. And I was looking at the holly bush, and I was like, "Ooh, better go grab the camera." So, and it just so happened, finding a bunch of berries that had the sort of frozen but not really kind of droplet underneath. It was a pretty nice experience there.
Sarah, not to put you on the spot, but were there any other pages with Anthony's work that you can think of off the top of your head that I can search for and put on the screen here?
Absolutely, and I'll just be talking as I'm searching through for that. Okay. Anthony, you've been a great submitter. I think that we featured you in the summer of 2019. I believe that was the edition. But we've seen all sorts of work from you. You definitely have some just absolutely breathtaking landscapes. But you send us a wide variety of stuff, and I was just curious to hear, like, how do you choose what you submit? How do you put that together? What thoughts go through that?
Well, I do like to do the landscape photography, and when I select what I want to submit, I generally try to pick places where I guess you would want to be, by yourself with your thoughts, I guess. And, so I try to include a variety of landscapes, not just, trees and forests or rivers. I try to do a little bit of everything, a little bit of nighttime, because, there's many different places I think the mind will take you, and sometimes you see just a simple image, and it kind of gives you a particular kind of mindset. So I guess it's more or less me trying to present something that captures kind of like being alone with your thoughts.
Well, I just looked through, and I think this is the first edition since you started submitting that I only used one of your photos, and I can't believe it because you send us such great work. But please keep sending us more photography. Please keep, we want to keep in your loop because you have some real talent. So thank you so much for all the sharing that you've done with us.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. Alrighty. So last chance. Last moment to come out while we're waiting for anybody else who wants to speak. We are still waiting for the editions to come out from the printer, but we will post on Facebook and the website when they are out and ready to go. That's on me. I sent it out late. But we work with Lobu Printing in DuBois, and he is so great about keeping in contact, and he's a hard worker for us. So I wouldn't be surprised if I got an email tomorrow that it was ready. So we'll let you guys know, but I am just so excited to get these in the hands of the readers because it's fun to be able to see it up digitally. That's how we've been looking at it for a while, but then I just get so excited when we get the print magazines in. I just inhale them because getting to see it all together, and we usually come together and have an in-person meeting, and we decide how the flow goes and what pieces match together. And honestly, I miss that. That's a big part of this process that I really hope that we can get back to. But this time, just to give myself all the credit, I did a lot of thinking about how the flow went together and what pieces went where. So I hope that when you do come in and you get your magazines, whether you pre-ordered or whether you're buying them from the store, I hope that you'll read it through and through, as well as pick and choose as the time is necessary, because I feel like it reads really well both ways.
Yeah, I think what we saw tonight is just the tip of the iceberg, and I think everyone is just going to love this journal. There's some phenomenal photography, some beautiful artwork, and just a lot of really well done writing. So what you saw tonight is just, like I said, the tip.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say thanks to Sarah, because despite everything that's happened this year and all the ways that our efforts could have been thwarted or delayed or, completely thrown off course, both with everything that we're grappling with in the world today, but also like personally, we're both busy people with a lot going on and ups and downs and all kinds of things that pop up and demands on our time. And so to show, I hope that, Sarah, you're really proud of. I know I'm really proud of the fact that the longevity of what we've been able to do. Publishing quarterly is not easy. Not a lot of literary magazines are publishing that often, but we really committed to doing that because it serves our mission of inclusivity. We can include the most work from our region if we are publishing that often. And the fact that we've been able to keep it up this long, and you with the layout and taking care of us in terms of handling these files and getting them where they need to go, and all of that has just been really incredible to watch. So,
well, I appreciate that. Honestly, I love the moment. Right now I'm running on the high of the new magazine. I can't wait to get that out there. But then there's a moment kind of when we've sold out and we've gotten all the pre-orders out, and there's kind of that lull when I'm thinking, oh, I can't wait for the next submissions period, because the submitters, the people that are sending us their stuff, they're honoring us with things that are very valuable to them, and we get to be the whatever microphone or whatever that's going in this direction, while they're also probably going in a bunch of different directions. And that's an honor to be on that list. But also it's the team. I get so pumped about, okay, it's one thing to manage the submissions, keep the tracking going and making sure everyone's communicating about which version we're on. But what I love is that the team is also pumped about it. And we have we have the three ladies here, but then we also have Tia, who is jumping in, and Amanda, who is jumping in, and Kirk, who is jumping in. And it's not just me sitting alone, in this vacuum creating this thing. My excitement is thinking about all those submitters and all this other team who believe in this organization in general, but this product, like you said, Jess, in particular. I feel like this is the vehicle. Not only did it start all of this stuff that came rolling afterwards, but it really is an opportunity for our region to set its own, what was the quote from the video, that we create our own
popular culture.
Yeah, we create our own pop culture and we consume it. I can't tell you guys about the kind of readers that are coming through. We've been selling out of editions. Our website is going mad. People love your stuff, guys. Please keep.
Yeah, we got to keep it up. The demand is high. Well, I think that pretty much caps us off for the night, and I want to thank everybody for joining us on AirMeet, for streaming from YouTube and Facebook, and keep the conversation going with each other and with the community, because it's all that momentum and encouragement and feedback that keeps us all well fed when it comes to our literary pursuits. So thank you guys again so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good weekend. Shout out to Amanda Gorman and the inaugural poetry. Right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just gotta say, she was amazing. Poetry got a huge shot in the arm on Wednesday. Thanks.
Right on. All right.